This video is an introduction to Microsoft's Excel program. Excel is a spreadsheet program used to do calculations, and that's obviously very useful to us in the labs because we can use it to analyze our data. Now on the page you'll see all these little boxes. These are called cells. And every cell has a unique address, so right now this cell is in column C, row 4. So the address of this cell is C4, and in fact that's written up here in the corner in this little box. If I click into a different cell, it changes the address. Now I'm in A1. This will become relevant later when we're doing calculations. Now if I click into a cell and type some formula and hit enter, then Excel just displays the answer for me here. Now if you want to remind yourself what you typed in here, up here at the top there's something called a formula bar, and we see the formula actually typed here. And if I want to, I can click into the formula bar and make changes. So I can, for example, correct this to a different equation. And I hit enter, and it now gives me the corrected answer. Now if I click on that cell and start typing, then when I hit enter, it automatically overwrites whatever was there before. So that previous equation is just gone. I've got the new one here now. If you're halfway through typing something, and you realize you don't want to commit to that change, just hit the escape key, and it'll go back to the formula that was there previously. So escape gets you out of your change. Now when you're analyzing data in Excel, it's always a good idea to label things well. So for example, you'd want to put down the experiment that you're working on. And you should put your name in. And of course you want some labels for your data. Now sometimes you'll find that once you've typed things in, if you type something in the next cell, it covers up what was in the first cell right beside it. So if you want to adjust the width of these columns, what you do is there's two ways to do this. You can either hover your mouse in between the two columns and then double click, and it will automatically resize the column to fit whatever was longest in that column. Or if you don't like that, you can also hover your mouse between the two columns and then just click and drag it to the size you want. You can also type in numbers, so I'll enter some data now. And now let's do some calculations. So to tell the program that you're about to type in a calculation rather than text or a number, you type the equal sign. So that just tells Excel whatever I'm going to type next, it's a formula, it's not text. And then I can type in my calculation, hit enter, and get my answer. Now if you want to add things, it's the plus symbol. If you want to subtract, it's the minus symbol. If you want to multiply something, you need to use the asterisk key. So that's above the number 8 on your keyboard. So Shift 8 gives you the asterisk. Some people call it a star, and Excel will interpret that as a multiplication symbol. If you want to divide two numbers, it's the slash symbol. That's in the lower right-hand corner of your keyboard. So 2/10 gives me 2 divided by 10. And if you want to raise something to a power, you want to use the caret symbol. So that's above the number 6 on your keyboard. Some people call it the little hat. So Shift 6 gives you the caret or the hat, and the program's going to interpret this as 2 raised to the power of 10. So now let's try this all again, except this time we're going to use cell addresses instead of numbers. And there's a reason why we do that, which I'll go over later. Okay, so let's say we wanted to add this value to this value. So I could just type in the values, =1 plus 5, hit enter, but you can also use the cell addresses. So what I mean by that is that this value is located in cell A5, and this value is in B5. So I could use those instead. I could say A5 plus B5. Hit enter, and it gives me my answer. Now the reason why you would want to do this is that you might want to apply that calculation to every row in this table, and you'd like to be able to avoid having to retype the formula every single time. If you use cell addresses, there's a way to do that. You can copy and paste your formulas. So there's two ways to copy and paste the formula from this cell into other cells. Let me show you the slower way first. You first start by clicking on the cell that contains the formula that you want to copy and paste. You come up here to the clipboard area on the Home tab and you click Copy, and that gives you this blinking outline on your box. You can now click and drag to highlight other cells where you want that formula to appear, go back to the clipboard section and click on Paste, and it pastes in a bunch of values. So let's have a look at these. So this first cell has A5 plus B5 in it. The second one has A6 plus B6 in it. So the program is smart enough to automatically increment the row numbers when I copy and paste downwards, and to automatically increment the column letters when I copy and paste sideways. So again, the slower way to copy and paste a function is to click on the cell where the formula is, click Copy, highlight the other cells where you want it to appear, and click Paste. But like I said, this is actually the slower way to do it. So what you need to do for the quicker way is, again, start by clicking on the cell where the formula is located, and then right in the corner of this cell, you'll notice a very tiny dark box. If I hover my mouse over top of that dark box, it changes shape, and then I can click and drag to copy and paste that function downward. So again, you click on the cell where the formula appears, hover your mouse on that little box in the corner until it changes shape, and then click and drag to copy and paste your formula. Now you'll remember that I said that the program automatically increments things. There's some situations where you would like to stop it from automatically incrementing a row number. So let me demonstrate. Let's say that I have a constant. And the calculation I want to do is I want to take this number and raise it to the power of the constant. So I'll do that now. Equal sign, and here's a quick trick that is handy. You can actually just click on this cell and it'll automatically fill in the address for you. So B5 caret symbol to raise it to the power of the constant. And now I'll just click on the constant and it'll fill in my address for me. I hit enter, I get the right number. Great. So now I want to copy and paste this to all the other rows, and I do that. And oh, I got a bunch of wrong answers. What's going on here? So let's click into one of these and see what happened. So I click onto the formula bar and it goes into this editing mode where it lights up the box that I'm referencing. And now we immediately see the problem. I've got B6, that's correct, raised to the power of, E3 instead of E2, and there's nothing typed into E3. So it incremented B5 correctly, but how do I stop it from incrementing E2? Well, the answer is you use the dollar sign. So I'll click into the formula bar here, and what I want to type is B5 raised to the power of $E, $2. So the dollar sign tells Excel whatever comes next, don't increment it. And because I'm copying and pasting downwards, it's actually the $2 that's important for me, because that'll stop the 2 from incrementing to 3. So I hit enter, I still get the right answer, and now when I copy and paste this downward, it gives me the right answers. And I can click into these cells and double check that yes, I've got B9, but it's still being raised to the power of E2. So the E2 did not increment because I used the dollar signs. So now I'm going to tell you about some special functions that you might want to use. So let's say you wanted to add up all of these values. So you could say equal sign, this value, plus the next value, plus the next one, plus the next, plus the last one, and then hit enter, and it adds them all up for me. That's great, but that was a lot of typing. There are functions that will do some of this stuff for you. So for example, I could also type equal sign, sum, open the brackets, and then I can click this guy and a comma, the next one, comma, next one, comma, next one, comma, next one, close the brackets, hit enter, gives me that same answer again. And you may be thinking, well, that wasn't any faster though, was it? Here's the fast way to use that same function. Equal sign, sum, open the brackets, and then I can click and drag to cover that block of data. And down here you see it says B5 colon B9. And that means sum up everything from B5 to B9. So now I close my brackets, hit enter, and again, it calculates my sum for me. There are other functions you might want to use. So another one that's very common would be average. So the average of all of these guys. Another one that we use very commonly in this course is the standard deviation. So equal sign STDEV for standard deviation, open the brackets, highlight the data, close the brackets, hit enter, and it calculates the standard deviation for me. Now all of these functions that I just showed you, they involved a list of data. There's some functions where you would only put in one value. So for example, equal sign SQRT will calculate the square root of whatever I type in next. So let's calculate the square root of 25, close the brackets, hit enter, and I get the correct answer. So SQRT to calculate a square root. Now I'm going to change my constant to 90, and I'm going to show you a trigonometric function. So equal sign, sine, open bracket, and I'll click 90 here, meaning 90 degrees, close my brackets, hit enter, and The sine of 90 degrees is 1, so how come I'm getting this other value? Well, Excel assumes that the value you give it is in radians, not degrees. So I gave it a value in degrees, and it assumed that that was a value in radians. So you would need to convert. Luckily, there's a function that does that too. So if I type equals radians, open bracket, then 90 degrees, and close my bracket, it converts 90 degrees into the equivalent amount of radians. And you can nest these two functions inside each other. So I can go equals sine, open bracket, radians, open bracket again, put in my value in degrees, 90 degrees, close both sets of brackets, hit enter, and now I get the correct answer for the sine of 90 degrees. And by the way, if you ever need to get the value of pi, it would be pi, open bracket, close bracket, with nothing in between, not even a space. So pi, open bracket, close bracket, gives you the value of pi. Now let me show you two more things. So I'm going to put another constant up here. So let's say I want to calculate the cosine of 45 degrees. So equals cos, open bracket, radians, open bracket again, and I'm going to purposely make a mistake here. I'm going to click on the wrong constant. And then I'll close both sets of brackets, hit enter. So I look at this value and I say to myself, that looks kind of weird. That's not what I expected to get. So you click on it, and I showed you this earlier. If you double click on this guy, it puts you into an editing mode. You can get into the same editing mode by clicking on the formula bar. And now I can make changes directly in this cell. But before I do that, I just want to point out that it highlights the value I used in blue over here, and it also color codes it in my expression. When I'm in this editing mode, if I look around and realize that I've chosen the wrong thing, I can actually hover my mouse over top of the colored outline and drag it to a new location, and it will automatically fix my formula for me. So now I hit enter, and I get the cosine of 45 degrees, like I expected. So again, if you double click on the cell, it puts you into this editing mode, and you can then click and drag your box around to correct an error that you made if you happen to enter the wrong cell address into your formula. Now the second thing I'll tell you about is scientific notation. So first let me switch this back to being the cosine of 90 degrees, and I'll just point out something you may not have noticed before. So in this value, it says 6.12574, capital E, minus 17. What is that E about? Well, that's the way that Excel displays scientific notation. The E means times 10 to the power of whatever comes next. So if I type in a really big value, like 5.7 times 10 to the power of 18, that value is too large for Excel to display in the box. So it shortens it by using scientific notation. And again, the notation that it uses is this capital E. And you're welcome to use that notation too. So you can just type in 5.7 E 18, and Excel is going to understand what you meant.